This video is brought to you by Squarespace. So let's talk about the Clone Jutsu. No, not the Shadow Clone Jutsu, just the Clone Jutsu, which is very much overlooked by the entire Naruto universe and even the fandom. This was the jutsu the ninjas in the Leaf Ninja Academy had to perform in order to graduate into the ninja rank. It's listed as a very basic supplementary E-rank jutsu, the lowest tier of jutsu there is, and essentially every single ninja with rare exceptions such as Rock Lee would know how to use this jutsu. The interesting thing is that this is a genjutsu. It's not ninjutsu. This is a very big misconception. People think that hologram type things are ninjutsu, but no, they are actually genjutsu. There's more than one type of genjutsu. Most people are just used to the type that is cast on another person, disturbing their chakra flow and therefore causing illusions and stuff like that. But no, hologram type genjutsu also exists, and the clone jutsu is an example. In this jutsu, the user creates after images of his or herself that can be used to distract opponents in the middle of a fight. They do not have mass, unlike most other clone jutsus, such as the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the Water Clone, every single elemental clone essentially. They can touch things and fight properly, but the clone jutsu is much more basic. You can only serve as a visual distraction. Unlike the other types of cloning jutsus, this one is much easier to identify. The clones can be spotted by looking at signs such as not kicking up dust when they run, not crunching up the grass on the ground, not really interacting with the environment. That's what gives the clones away. Obviously, this jutsu is not nearly as powerful as the Shadow Clone Jutsu, for example, but it's not nearly as used as one would think. And yes, this jutsu is very low level, but it could be very useful in a lot of situations, just like the substitution jutsu, which is another E-rank jutsu that's extremely powerful. But I've already made a video about the substitution jutsu. Go watch it, by the way. There really aren't a lot of instances when the clone jutsu was used mid-combat during the Naruto series. Sakura used it in her fight against Ino in the Chunin exams, and Temari thought about using it against Shikamaru to distract him with a clone, so that Shikamaru would use his shadow to catch her clone, and then Temari would get an opening, but she didn't have time to do that because Shikamaru caught her with his shadow before it. We also have those Rain Village guys that fight against Team 7 in the end of the Forest of Death, but the jutsu they use is not exactly the clone jutsu. It's listed as haze clones, which I suppose is a little bit different, but in the end of the day, it's a derived jutsu, and pretty much the same. And this jutsu is never really used again, even though it's a jutsu everybody knows and that can be very useful. Why is that? Well, for starters, we tend to follow the story of the most powerful characters in the Naruto universe, therefore, weak jutsus such as this one are not gonna be very relevant often. Take Naruto for example, a guy whose speciality is literally to use the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Why would he choose to use the Clone Jutsu instead, which is just a weaker variant? Now, of course, it's implied that the Clone Jutsu doesn't spend a lot of chakra at all because it's an E-rank jutsu, and the Shadow Clone Jutsu is extremely taxing on chakra reserves, but Naruto has plenty of chakra. He doesn't really have to worry about that. He's going to simply spam the Shadow Clone Jutsu because they can actually damage the opponent, and there is an added benefit of the Shadow Clone Jutsu and also the other types of Clone Jutsu, especially the Wood Clone as well. You cannot tell them apart from the original. And I'm not just talking about your five senses trying to perceive if this guy is an illusion or not, because obviously they're solid, so you're not going to be able to tell them apart like that, but I'm talking about jutsus that are specifically made to tell them apart. For instance, the Sharingan and the Byakugan are shown time and time again. They cannot distinguish shadow clones from the original. Also, wood clones as well. The only person that was ever able to tell them apart was Madara when he spot the original Hashirama among the wood clones. That's because his Sharingan prowess was just beyond everybody else, and in the end of the day, Hashirama still defeated him by fooling Madara with a Wood Clone. Now granted, it's because Madara's Sharingan wasn't activated at the time because he was out of chakra, but still, fooling people with clones is a very big staple of the Naruto universe. Naruto literally does that every single fight he has, and this wouldn't be possible with simple clones that are illusions, because first, you can tell them apart with dojutsu pretty easily. Sasuke was able to do that in the fight against those Rain Village guys. Second, you can tell them apart without any type of special jutsu, because you can just see if they are actually interacting with the environment or not. So capable ninjas, observant ninjas are gonna see, yeah, okay, this guy is not a real person, it's an actual illusion. Like, imagine them using the clone jutsu against someone like Itachi or Pain or, I don't know, Madara. It would not work. Before we continue the story, I would like to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace, which is the best tool you can ever find to create your own website. And we know that in this day and age, having a website for your business or even for whatever you want to do online is very important. Squarespace provides you all the web design tools for you to create your own website. It's very impressive. You don't need to have any expertise with web design to make a professional looking website with Squarespace. And if you don't want to create your own website from scratch, another impressive thing is how easily you can simply sell what you have to sell in their website. Products, services, even content. So don't waste any time, head to the link down below and use the coupon Daigonite for 10% off in your first Squarespace purchase. And let's get back to the video. This jutsu was definitely much more used in fights between lower level ninjas. I mean, Sakura, in the beginning of the series, she liked to spam those E-rank jutsus. She spammed the substitution jutsu against the sound team. She spammed the clone jutsu against Ino. That was what she could do, you know? She was a pretty limited ninja in that point of the story, so she had only those very weak jutsus to fight with, and she did some stuff with them. I mean, she landed a lot of blows on Ino using the clones as a distraction. So if you imagine fights between Genins, they could probably look like that most of the time, especially between those lower level Genins that are not really known for their power and don't really have a lot of jutsus in their sleeve. But still, most ninjas in the verse, even higher level ninjas, do not know a single type of clone ability, such as the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the Water Clone, any elemental clones you want to say, but they do know the regular clone jutsu. That's because, I mean, everybody knows that jutsu except for, like, Lee. And that's because cloning yourself with real clones and splitting your chakra is risky. You need a lot of chakra in order for it to be a reliable thing. You have to be someone like Naruto. Even when lower level ninjas master cloning jutsu, such as when Kiba used the Shadow Clone Jutsu to create a 3-headed hound, they only use a few. I mean, Kiba used one Shadow Clone, and that was treated as a big victory. You have to remember that Naruto is a massive outlier in the Naruto universe. He has the vastest chakra pool ever seen since Hashirama Senju, and he even surpassed Hashirama later in the war arc. But most ninjas are not gonna be able to spam the Shadow Clone Jutsu. I mean, Hiruzen was known to fight with the Shadow Clone Jutsu, but in the fight against Orochimaru when he was older and out of his prime, he didn't have as much chakra, he just didn't use the Shadow Clone Jutsu because it would be too much of a risk. He only used in the end of the fight when he was already like, okay, I'm gonna die here anyway, I'm just gonna try and seal everyone with my clones. But otherwise, he didn't use the Shadow Clone Jutsu to aid in the actual battle. We see other ninjas such as Kakashi, Zabuza, even Kisame using clone jutsus of the elemental variety, such as the Water Clone and the Lightning Style Clone, but they usually only use one or like two. It's not a lot like Naruto. Naruto is the different guy. I mean, there's that one time when Kakashi used 1 billion Shadow Clone Jutsus in the end of the Land of Waves arc to just scare all those bandits away, which, don't get me wrong, I think that was an oversight by Kishimoto. Like, Kakashi wouldn't have chakra to do that, especially after fighting against Zabuza, but in my headcanon, he was just using the normal clone jutsu and making like 1 billion hologram copies of himself just to intimidate the bandits. But anyway, that was just probably a flaw in the writing. Kishimoto wasn't sure about the power levels in the universe yet. So yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. My point is, most ninjas cannot use these types of abilities like Naruto does. They cannot reliably use the clones to make distractions in the middle of a battle, to make strategies and all that. And this is a precious thing. Naruto beats a lot of powerful opponents through sheer deception via his shadow clones. So why wouldn't these people that cannot use any shadow clones or water clones or whatever use the regular clone jutsu more often? Yes, I know it's not that reliable because most powerful ninjas are going to immediately detect it, but still, it could be viable in a lot of situations, especially during the heat of the battle when things are chaotic and it would be difficult to spot a hologram from the real one because you're not really looking for that or because there's so much noise in the middle of the fight. Sakura does that against Ino and Temari has that idea against Shikamaru, but after that nobody else even thinks about using a clone as a distraction. And let's be real, there are very dumb opponents in Naruto as well. I'm pretty sure that if they used the clone jutsu against Hidan, he would have fallen for it because he was just dumb. You could also use other jutsus combined with a clone jutsu because the clone jutsu doesn't require a lot of chakra, so I mean it's not really that big of a deal if you use another jutsu on top of that one at the same time. They don't have to be necessarily used in taijutsu battles like Sakura was using them. They can be used in all sorts of things. Even in on-combat situations, they could be very useful. You could make it seem that you were somewhere else that you weren't. And sure, they wouldn't hold up to very close scrutiny, but it's better than nothing. It would just have been nice if we saw more of this jutsu throughout the entire series, and we just didn't, but that's okay. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. This jutsu doesn't break the entire universe and the power system like the substitution jutsu does. It's just an interesting jutsu and very easy to use, so you would imagine that because it's so easy, because it doesn't require that much chakra, people would be using it more, even if the results wouldn't be that potent, because there's no risk to using the jutsu. What would you lose by casting the clone jutsu before engaging somebody in taijutsu, given that you're not surrounded and the person would give you the time to weave hand seals? There would be nothing bad about doing so, and then you'd have these distractions during a taijutsu fight, for instance. And even if your opponent knows how to tell them apart perfectly, you don't lose anything by having them. They're just not going to help you, but they're not going to affect the fight against you. The only thing you're spending is a little bit of your chakra, but if you don't have enough chakra to spare a couple of normal clones, then you shouldn't even be a ninja. I mean, I guess the guy wouldn't be able to do that. The guy is an exception, just like Rock Lee. But that's pretty much it. Tell me in the comments down below some interesting combos with the normal clone jutsu that you can think of. Like this video if you enjoy my content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future videos, and watch this video right here for more interesting Naruto videos. Come on, it really helps me out if you like the video. Thank you so much for watching.